everybody. Welcome back. Today we are continuing our Unit 12 on measurement, and we're going to be talking about measuring volume today. First of all, let's review what we've already gone over. We have already talked about measuring length, and how we do that is with a ruler and with a meter stick or with a yardstick. Okay? So in the United States, we have certain types of measurements we use. They're called U.S. customary measurements. For length, we use inches, feet, and yards. An inch is the smallest form of measurement we use in the United States. Then we have a foot, which is a ruler. That is this purple one right here. That is a ruler. That's also a foot, and there are 12 inches in that foot. And then we also use a yardstick, which is this back one right here. And there are 3 feet in that yard. So there's 3 of these rulers in that yardstick. We use yards to measure like the yards in a football game. We use feet to measure how tall people are, and we use inches to measure smaller objects. Next, we also have something called the metric system. This is what other places in the world use. They use centimeters and meters. Now, centimeters are very, very tiny. They're even smaller than inches. If you look at a ruler, it will have an inch side and a centimeter side. So a centimeter is even smaller than an inch, and 100 of those centimeters make a meter stick. A meter is this right here in the middle, the longer one. It's about the same length as a yard. It's a few inches longer, but there are 100 centimeters in this. And people in other places in the world use meters and centimeters to measure things instead of inches and feet and yards. So we already talked about using a ruler. We line up whatever object we're measuring with the 0 mark. And if your ruler has a 0 mark, use the 0 mark. If it does not, then you're going to use the end of it. Now, this one is lined up here for our centimeters. So if I wanted to measure this pen with centimeters, I'm going to make sure I'm on the cm side. Another clue for centimeters is there's a lot more numbers that go all the way up to 30 on the ruler, and the inch side are much more spread out and only go up to 12. So our centimeter side, cm for centimeters, tells me that this pen is 10 centimeters long. If I wanted to look down, I could also see that it's about 4 inches long. Also, if we wanted to measure this marker, let's look at this measuring it with inches. I'm going to rotate my ruler to use the inch side. Notice how it says inch here. I'm going to line the tip of whatever I'm measuring up with the 0 mark. So I line the tip of the marker up with the 0. And I look at the tip of this marker. And in 3rd grade, we only measure to the whole inch or to the nearest half inch. We're not worried about the 1/4 and 3/4 marks. We're worried about the big numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the in-between marks, which is a half mark. So here, it's coming in between 4 and 5, at about the middle. So we're going to say that this marker is about 4.5 inches long. To say that, you would write down 4 inches because it's past the 4-inch mark, and then you would write 1/2, which is a fraction, 1/2. Notice I put IN for inches because that is our abbreviation. Now, if I wanted to measure this marker with centimeters, I would rotate the ruler to the other side, line up the tip of it with the 0 on the centimeter side, cm for centimeter, and see how long it is. In 3rd grade, we don't have to worry about half centimeters. We're only looking at whole centimeters. So here, the closest whole centimeter is 12 centimeters, and I would put cm, which stands for centimeter. It's a lot quicker than writing out the word centimeter. All right, today we are also talking about estimating length. Let's do a quick review of that. So if we're estimating the length, we're looking at how long an object is. We're taking our best guess. That's what estimating means. So we're looking at centimeters, inches. Those are our shortest units of measure. Feet is the medium one. And then we have yards and meters, which are our larger units of measure for length. All right. When we estimate things like this, we would say, okay, if I wanted to estimate the height of a person would be probably about 5 feet or 6 feet tall. We know that they're not yards tall. We know that they're not centimeters tall. We're going to want to measure that in inches or feet usually. Also, if I wanted to say, like, what's the average length of a football field? I'm going to measure that in yards over centimeters. So really, estimating length is just using common sense and sitting and thinking about how big those things are. A centimeter is very small, then an inch, then a foot is 12 inches, and then a yard is 36 inches, and a meter is a little bit longer than a yardstick. So just kind of sitting and thinking about how long the object is that you're measuring, that's going to help you estimate how long that object is. All right, today we're talking about measuring volume. Now, I want you to think about what the word volume means. Usually volume is what you think of when you're turning up the volume on your TV, either quietly or loudly. Volume also means how much a liquid can hold, how much an object can hold of liquid. So like a container, how much could my coffee mug hold with liquid in it? We're going to be learning about four main things, which is what we use in the United States. These are our U.S. customary measurements. So we use things called a gallon. A gallon is our biggest one that we're going to use. And I think we all are very familiar with a gallon of milk. When we go to the store, we buy a big gallon of milk, okay? Now, if I wanted to buy a smaller unit of milk, I could buy a quart of milk, okay? Quart is much smaller than a gallon. In fact, it takes 4 quarts to equal a gallon. After that, we can buy this like size. They're usually up closer to like the checkout. These are like the little personal sizes. These are usually about a pint, okay? So it's not a lot of milk, but it is still a good amount for a drink. And then these tiny, tiny little containers that you get at school is a cup. So as you can see, a gallon is our biggest, and then we have a quart, then we have a pint, and then we have a cup. So today we're going to be learning about a gallon garden, and that's going to be in a separate video, and it's going to talk about how many quarts, pints, and cups are inside of a gallon. And there's a fun story that goes with that helps us remember those things, okay? The important thing here is that a gallon equals 4 quarts. This is our gallon garden, and this is what we're going to be making today, okay? So I have a giant G, which stands for gallon. Inside of that, I have 4 Q's, which means quarts. There are 4 quarts in a gallon. And then inside of each quart, I have 2 P's, which stand for pints. And inside of each pint, I have 2 cups. So as you can see, cups are the smallest, then pints, then quarts, then gallons. So largest to smallest, we have gallons, quarts, pints, and cups. We're going to be talking more specifically about how to remember this by drawing a picture later on, okay? We also have the metric unit for volume. So in other places of the world, it's the same places that use meters and centimeters, they use something called liters, and they all rhyme, so it's very easy to remember. So we have meters and centimeters for length. For volume, we have liters and milliliters. So a liter, you might have heard of something called a 2-liter. A 2-liter is that big bottle of pop or soft drink, whatever you call it, that you get at Walmart when you're going to have pizza night or whatever. It's a 2-liter. So there are 2 liters inside of it. Also at Walmart, you can buy a liter of the flavored water, and they're pretty big bottles. They're bigger than my coffee cup, but that would be a liter. A liter is around the same size of a quart. It's not quite a quart. And then we have a milliliter, which a milliliter is very, very small. It's even smaller than a cup. A milliliter is about 20 drops of water. So it's very, very tiny. As you can see, it's in like this little eye drop thing. This reminds me of when I used to take medicine when I was little, when they would put it in the little squeezy thing and then you push it into like a baby's mouth, like liquid medicine if they have a cold or something. That's about a milliliter. So in other parts of the world, we use liters and milliliters. The reason why it's called a milliliter is because milli means 1,000. Milli means 1,000. M-I-L-L-I means 1,000. Kind of like a millipede. If you've ever heard of one of those, it's a bug that has 1,000 legs. Milli means 1,000. So milliliter has 1,000. It takes 1,000 milliliters to equal 1 liter. So it takes a lot of milliliters to get a whole liter. All right, so these are in order from biggest to smallest. We have gallon. Gallon is our biggest. And then below that, we have liter and quart. And liter and quarts are about the same. A quart is just a tiny bit smaller than a liter, but they are very, very comparable. So when I say a liter, it's very similar to a quart. But I want you to picture a gallon of milk. So we have a big old gallon. That's the biggest thing. Next, we have a quart or a liter. And this would be probably one of those big creamer bottles that your mom would buy if she buys creamer for her coffee. Or it could also be one of those big flavored water bottles. Like they're bigger than the normal water bottle. Okay, they're big. And then below that, we have a pint. A pint would be around how much a personal size Dr. Pepper would be. And then below that we have a cup. Those are about the size of the milk cartons you get at school. A cup is also what we use to measure when we're baking. You use like a fourth a cup, 2/3 of a cup, whatever. We use cups typically when we're baking with liquids. And then we have below that is a milliliter. So the smallest is a milliliter, and that is just 20 drops of water. It's very, very tiny, okay? So that is our volume measurements. I want you to go watch our gallon garden video to help us remember how many quarts and pints and cups are in a gallon. And it's also a fun story to follow along with. I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil and get ready to make your own. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions. Bye.